Thank you for watching Light Up Vichwa. This is my episode with Samira Mumtaz, part 1. And I hope you have already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, please do so and share, rate, and review. And stay tuned for part 2 as well. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, Samira.
Walaikum assalam. Greetings from Pakistan.
Oh, yes. And you are in Pakistan, Lahore, Pakistan, a long way, about 10 hours of our difference. And I am honored that you have taken out time, and thank you very much for
My
being
pleasure.
here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So I am sure people will enjoy our conversation. So let's begin with your what's your name and who you are. What do you do?
My name is Samira Mumtaz, and I have a degree in English literature. And I've been recently teaching at Punjab University to graduate and postgraduate levels.
Okay.
I'm also a mother of 3 kids, a single mother of 3 kids aged 10, 8, and 6. And apart from that, I love traveling and I write for myself.
Wonderful.
Because my husband passed away 4 years ago. It will be 4 years in July.
Okay.
It was untimely and a tragic death. We both were 35 years of age, and my children were very small, young at that time. So it has been
a journey, a struggling journey.
A struggling journey.
Okay, we'll come back to that. And also, I want to ask you: you teach postgraduate and graduate students. What subjects do you teach?
I've taught them poetry and drama and fiction, non-fiction. So basically, I've covered all genres of English literature.
What else do you like to do?
I love traveling and photography, and I'm a big foodie.
Okay. Do you have a website where you post?
No, I'm currently planning to design a blog where I'm going to start posting whatever I write. It's basically based upon travel and whatever meanings I can derive from nature.
How did you manage to be who you are? You're positive, you're doing things. Maybe this can give hope to people who are in your situation.
Yeah. Talking about his death, it was when I use the word untimely, it's more with relation to the fact that there was no medical problem as such that he was carrying. It was just a very small sebaceous cyst that he had at the back of his neck, which barely required. It was so small, it just required 2 stitches, after the surgery. So he went in for that. In the morning, 1 July 2014, and when he was shifted back to the room and he was conscious, he was talking to me 10:30 in the morning, telling me that he has nausea and headache. But the events turned sour after that, because within 12 hours and whatever happened in between was just sped by so quickly that at 10:30 at night, I've been telling by the doctors that your husband has developed brain infarction and that his brain stem has been clogged with a clot and that he has to be put on a ventilator. So, he was on the ventilator for 2 weeks. So that in itself was very painful, it was hard coming to terms. And sometimes I think maybe that was the time given by God for me to perhaps prepare and say a final goodbye, because it was on the 13th day when I actually prayed that I do not want to make this tough choice of pulling him off the ventilator. So God, when you've done this, why don't you do it yourself? And I think he listened to me, because the very next day, 14th day in the morning, with full support, with everything going on, I could just see him gradually, by the minutes, just pass away. So it's been a very tough journey. In fact, there's no adjective that can actually describe what I have been through as a wife, what I've been through as a mother, what my kids have been through, and what, in fact, his family and what who everyone has been
Yeah,
through.
who's
But it's
connected
been
to,
a
obviously.
who's connected to him, and it's been very difficult. It has been while I got into the phase where I was getting down, and you do keep going down and then picking yourself up again. But initially it was very important for me to get back up on my 2 feet, because I had very small children, and I could not make them see that life is just about despair, and it's about that about them losing so many things, or them falling into that kind of negativity. I did not want them to see me, who was their only hope, falling into a depression of sorts. And initially I thought, I would cry in the bathroom, in the closet, so that they would not listen to me, or when they would go to sleep and was unable to sleep, I would just look at my bed and I would see this my kids, and I would get very sentimental and emotional. But when I realized that they were watching me silently, they were observing, no matter how much of a pretty picture I was trying to portray, but they could see it in my eyes. Because you see, when you're not happy from inside, it reflects in your eyes. And when my son said to me one morning that your eyes look sad, that was the day for me. That was the day for me. And he was
And he was so
barely
little.
3 years old.
Oh,
He was
wow.
so little. He
So
was barely three
perceptive.
years old. Yes, and he just looked into my eyes, and he was talking casually about horse carts, because I was going to drop him to school, and he was talking about rickshaw colors and horse carts. And then he just looked at me, and I kissed him, and he just said that
So
today
innocent.
your eyes look very sad. And that was the moment I said, what am I doing? I cannot make them see me fall like this. And no, I don't want them, because if I am sad, who is going to lift them up? Who's there for them? And I cannot show them that life is just about thorns. There's also roses.
So who was there for you?
My mother was there for my I had the support of the entire family, but primarily my mother, my sister, my brother, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, their families, their children, my nephew,
You have
nieces,
good
everyone was
relations
there.
with your husband's family?
Yes, I have good relations with my husband's family, especially his mother and his maternal side of the family.
Right.
We bond very well, and they have been there for my children, and they've been supporting me,
Very nice.
whatever I've endeavored to do. And I got my emotional support from my mother, who had also experienced a similar kind of tragedy. And I was 8 when my father passed away, though my siblings were a bit older.
Yeah.
But I think that helped a lot, having a supportive network, even if they don't. I was carrying out all the tasks myself, and I think that's also a very positive thing on behalf of my family, that they did not take the tasks away from me, saying that, okay, let's do this for you, because in doing so they know it would hurt me in a way, because I just did not want to feel that I am dependent on another person, and they did not want me to feel that I was dependent on them, whether it was doing a small thing, a small decision, whatever it is. It The confidence that I have to move my life forward, and I have to take the reins of my kids in my hands. So
So
that gave me confidence too.
that's very good. Very good. So how do you
Mm,
manage that?
mm. Well, the instructions and the criticism and the sermons start from day one.
Oh,
Whether it's about Muslim women have to there's a certain time period that is allowed by God for mourning
yeah.
of a dead husband, and
Which is iddat.
and
Iddat is
which is it is called iddat, yes,
and that is
and it's
exactly
4 months and 10 days.
yes, yeah, 4 months and 10 days,
4 months and 10 days,
and it's in,
and
described in the Quran. Yeah. So
described in the Quran. And it's a beautiful thing, because this is one relation. You have loved ones going away, your father, your mother, siblings, God forbid, and all that. But even God knows that this relationship is so beautiful that it takes at least this much time for a woman to mourn
not for
and to come
everybody,
out.
but that's good.
Yeah,
Those who
yeah,
have
yeah.
it.
Those.
Those who have.
So, so yes,
I just want to give the other side too.
the
I'm
other
glad you
side too.
had a
Yes, I
good
understand.
relation with your husband, and
Husband.
I'm glad that you have good
Um,
memories. And
good memories.
it's
Yeah,
that's a blessing to have that. That's good.
it is.
Go
It is.
ahead.
So the criticism is there. It's definitely there. I mean, you've been told that okay, now like your life has just come to an end. Like you are just on a pedestal because of your husband up there, and then suddenly when he's not there, you've fallen from the pedestal. Or you have things like about how women shouldn't really get married, even irrespective of age. But also, since I was just 35, I had to listen to that, a couple of times, that those are other kind of women who get married, and and all that.
So, what type of
Which
people
is
are saying that? Are these educated,
basically
uneducated? What?
educated, but from
Mhm.
a patriarchal mindset.
Okay,
All right,
that's
from a
what I want to.
patriarchal
I want to
mindset.
differentiate. Like, not all would
Yes.
think.
No,
A
no, no, not all
majority,
forms.
yeah. Is
Yeah.
it
It's
majority? You think, in
um
your
I
experience?
would say that 60%,
Mm-hmm.
would be
On
of
that
the
side.
people that are being on that side. And it's also those who have a patriarchal mindset, and it's also
Mm-hmm.
those who have limited knowledge of religion
Yeah.
in this aspect,
Okay.
particularly in this
Yeah.
aspect,
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
that what
That's a very
rights
important point that you have mentioned.
yes,
Thank you.
that what
Mm.
rights Islam has given to women. And it when I was I obviously I've studied, and and you're always a student when you're a Muslim and you're learning about things. It came to me as a surprise when I actually read that Allah Ta'ala prefers that, if you have the choice, if you have the, and if you want to, then He prefers that a woman can get married
Mm.
again, even if she has
Good.
children and so on. But in our society, you're actually at times made to realize that, you have daughters and you should rethink,
Mm.
you shouldn't settle,
These are
and
all
so on.
cultural things.
Cultural taboos and cultural things. and
Mm-hmm.
and for that, actually, I've been posed this question many times. I've
Mm-hmm.
been posed this question actually in different perspectives.
Mm.
Sometimes it was said to me directly just to assess me. Some people would think that whether I
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
inclined to do that or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes there have been colleagues or friends who lost their fathers, but they always saw their mothers struggling, and then they would come up to me and say that we have never been able to ask our mother this, but why don't you settle down, or why don't you
Mm.
remarry, and so
Mm.
on and so forth. And there have been many people who came up to me and they said, you're still young, get a life.
Mm.
The thing is that at the end of the day, I would just say this to women who come across all these questions and these issues, that at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Mm.
Your bond, your connection with your husband, and so on and so forth, it's your choice. But if the society is making you feel bad about having those emotions and those needs, don't remain in a state of denial. If you feel that you need a companion, or
Mhm.
you have your emotional needs that need to be nurtured,
Mhm.
and you do wish that you wish you had that bond, um, uh, the society actually makes you feel bad, that you start feeling that, okay, am I betraying my husband, am I betraying my first love, if I get married, would that be cheating? Because there have been women who
Yeah.
consider this cheating if they get
Yeah.
married to somebody else.
Mm.
And I would just say that, it's up to you
Yeah.
entirely, and it's you have to look at your happiness first,
That's
and
good.
not at what don't dictate your life through others.
Mhm.
Don't make them dictate your life.
Mm.
And um, when you're when ethically, when socially, you are able to do, when you're allowed to do these things, then there's no need to remain in a kind of self-pity, or in kind of
Mm.
guilt or a regret, where you decide not to move forward, and so on. So when people ask me this question, I just say that it was not in my hands that my husband went away. It was God's plan. It was His plan. So I am not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no.
Mm.
But if there is a plan and He knows better, that He meaning God, then there won't be an escape, will there?
Sure.
If He
Good.
makes
Good.
me fall into the
Good
trap of
message. Yeah.
romance again, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm.
Just
Good,
on the
good
lighter
point.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
that's good. We need the lighter side as always, and you are
yeah.
keeping that with your children. That's wonderful. Um, okay, so how would you rate yourself as a parent in this situation? Are you rating yourself very high because you managed well, in my view?
No, I don't rate myself at all because it's a continuous journey.
Mm,
I think I'll be rated either up there or at the end of the day when my
mhm,
children will tell their children how they
mhm,
were raised.
mm,
I think that would be my highest
mm.
rating.
So,
He was a good father in the sense that he bonded. He tried his very best to bond with uh, his kids. He had a profession. He was into politics,
okay.
which naturally takes away a lot of family time. But uh, we had like assigned one day of the week where we would either go out with kids
Mhm,
or he would spend a good evening with them. And he was there for their events like
mm,
sports
mm,
days and birthdays and
mm, mm.
celebrations.
That's good.
But that's about it.
Okay. Yeah.
But that matters a lot. I mean, a husband's presence, a father's presence means a lot to children.
Mm,
It is about time and the quality time that they spend, but the presence matters a lot.
good. Good.
Matters a lot.
All right. So now, are you? Have you ever thought of going into politics?
I was given the opportunity to
Oh.
immediately after my husband's death. When they found out that I was an educated woman, especially the party leaders, they approached me not once but twice,
Oh,
and
interesting.
they insisted that I take up uh, his seat and contest the by-elections from
Mm,
that
mhm.
area. But there were two reasons, and the first one being my children. They had already lost on a father, and I did not want them to lose out on a mother as well,
Mm.
because this is a time-consuming task and
Demanding job. Demanding.
demanding job. Secondly, since I was wed into a patriarchal family, even if I had won the election, the major part of it, the decisions and the logistics of it would have been carried out by the men of the family, which would
Mm,
include my husband's uncle and his cousins.
mm.
So I said, rather than do it this way, why not just let them contest? So his cousin is now a politician
Okay.
and on the same seat.
So, well, this can
At
be
least.
taken in this way. Well, they kind of give you the respect to, give an opportunity or choice to do
Yes,
it. And if
yes,
you were not willing, then of
yes,
course they
yes,
could do it.
exactly.
Okay, that's good. All right. I would like to ask you a little question. You cover. Is this because your husband told you to cover, or
No,
is
no,
there a pressure, or there is what is it?
no, not at all. I started covering. I was going to university actually at that time, and we were. It was
And you
we
were
had both
unmarried?
boys. And I was unmarried,
Okay.
and I tell you something interesting. It was 2000, January 2000, when I decided that okay, I'm going to start covering. And I wanted to actually for a long time, but that was the time because interestingly, my mother was sort of against it. She was like, "Why
Okay.
are you covering it?" And she was of the opinion that you'd be looked upon maybe as an extremist, or these things.
Yeah.
And then having in the East, you know how the proposals come in and all of
Oh,
that.
yeah. I keep hearing
And
that if it is a
yeah,
hijab wali or it is without hijab wali.
without Hijabali. And then yeah, and then she was like, "Would you be ready to marry somebody with a beard and all that?" And I was like, "Yeah, mother, chill." Eventually I married my class fellow.
Oh, was
So
he?
that yeah, he was my class fellow.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we were classmates.
That's nice.
So
Oh, I
I
didn't even
started
ask you
covering.
about that. So you knew him and you liked him?
Yes,
Oh,
I
that's
knew
wonderful.
him, and he actually approached me. The whole thing episodes began after we passed out from university. That
Okay.
he actually found when he started also taking up another degree, and he found a job. Then he actually sent a proposal and the desire
Oh,
to marry
nice.
me and all of that. Yeah. So it was my
So
choice,
that shows
and
that it was not totally arranged that way, but there was support of the family, but there was your
yes,
consent and liking of
yes,
the girl
yes,
as
obviously,
well.
as well,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And he chose, and he accepted me with the hijab, and and my brother was actually, he's very progressive. He still is. My brother is my cheerleader when it
Okay.
comes to doing whatever I want to do. So is my sister,
Mhm.
and so I started doing that. It's just that, I felt at that point that, like, there are a set of rules that are given to us by God, but he does not impose all rules. He knows that we cannot be perfect, but we are on the road to try to be perfect. So if I can try to follow as many as I can willingly. So I may be bad at getting up for my morning prayer, which is a very bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but this came so effortlessly to me
Okay.
and so natural. So I've never felt in any
Mhm.
way that I was judged upon it
Okay.
either, or
Very good.
anything of the sort.
Good. Nice. All right. So, because your children are at a very young age, so it must
Hmm.
be challenging to answer their questions and all. And
Hmm.
I know that you did a good job in that. But
Lessons. I think that the need to have a male presence will be there always,
hmm.
and
For the
uh,
children.
for the children,
Mm-hmm.
because they go to school, they see
Father.
fathers coming in, they have sports days, and both parents cheering them on, and
Mm.
photograph moments and all of
So, do
that.
they
So
ask you? Do they say something about it? Like, do they
they
say?
they we they do, and sometimes if they don't, I ask.
Hmm.
We talk about it.
Hmm.
We talk about the absences. We talk about missing.
Hmm.
um, I don't get harsh and say that you have to accept it, that this is going to happen every time. No, I always make sure that I am sensitive to what they're feeling, and I listen to them.
Hmm.
And because for me it's very important, I know what is going on in their minds and hearts, that they do not suppress. So we've made it a point in the family that we keep talking about
Hmm.
such. For example, when every year almost in social studies they study about families.
Hmm.
So every year I do go up to my daughter's, my middle one's teacher, and tell her, okay, the family topic is there, and this is the scenario. I always give a heads up to the next teacher whenever they
Hmm.
change classes. I
Mm-hmm.
do tell them,
Mm-hmm.
and so that they can, and I like to have this one-to-one relationship with the teachers as well, because I just tell them it's not about grades, it's about my child. I don't want them to withdraw themselves when something like this happens, or and there have been episodes, they've come home to me crying that today I was missing Abuji. They called him Abuji in class because we were talking about what fathers do, how you tend to spend time with your father, and so on. So I've had questions coming up to me like, Mom, when my teacher asks me to draw a family, do I draw my father?
Hmm.
And you have these challenges, and these are going to come, and especially with my son who's a boy.
Hmm.
He will, I feel that he misses that male connection. And though he has male cousins, his uncle, my brother, gives him a lot of time, and he bonds well with them, yet children still need a 24 hour. It's human nature, that they have that. So I try my very best to wrestle with him and do all that kind of boyish stuff. And his sisters are there for that. My middle one is a tomboy. In her presence, he does not miss out on a brother at all.
Okay.
And I let her do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to transform her into a
Yeah.
girl
Yeah.
in that way. So I let her be what she's
She
like.
wants.
And the challenges are going to be there,
Yeah.
because it's the girls. They I just feel that they will be emotionally a little more vulnerable when it comes to bonding with men, maybe in
Maybe.
future. So
Maybe not.
I have these things to cater to,
Hmm.
and actually to make them see the positive in everything.
Hmm.
That's the biggest challenge. I said I just
So.
have to be a parent and a friend.
Hmm.
Normally in any household, one parent is the the dictator, and then
Yes, and
usually
the
the
other one is
fathers are
softer. Yes.
the nurturer and the comfort,
Mm.
and the fathers are like, if the child has fallen down, it's okay, what if he's gotten dirt on his, and the
Uh,
mothers are the ones that, hey, we've
uh-huh.
got to make him wash his hands and
Yeah.
gotten his clothes dirty and so on. So I have to be both,
Mm.
and I also have to be their friend, because like I said, I really need to know what's going on in their mind.
Mm.
And I'm glad that they do talk to me, because once my daughter did come up to me and say that I miss having a father. So she may not miss her father because she was so small at that time, but she misses having one. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to train them to see the positive, and also to train them to see family as one unit.
So, do you think this has made you more conscious parent rather than
It
before?
has.
Than before?
It has.
Yeah.
Yes,
More,
I
more
think
aware, more
more
conscious.
aware, more conscious of emotions.
Mm.
There's this emotional quotient that educators often talk about. So
Mm.
I am high on that. I keep
Mm.
up. I make it a point that that does not waver.
Uh-huh. Mhm. So you are living a very mindful, I guess, life around them, especially, and which is helping you, I think, in
Mm,
terms of
mm,
your
mm.
uh,
Own
approach.
personal.
Yeah, personal
Yeah.
and approach to life, which is very good. I know that your photography travel is something meditative for you.
Yes.
Anything else that you do that helps you to relieve the restlessness or tension or challenges
I
of your life personally? What do you do? I mean,
personally, I what I do personally. Okay, I love to read, and I love to write also. I think writing comes very therapeutic to me.
uh-huh,
It is when I, because sometimes, like I told you, I travel,
uh-huh,
and um, traveling or being amidst nature,
uh-huh,
especially, I try to go to places which are,
uh-huh,
where there's a lot of wilderness, or there are mountains and there are forests, because I feel that nature has a lot to teach us.
uh-huh,
And when I try to pen down my experiences, I try to look at the positive meanings
uh-huh,
in them.
uh-huh,
Whether even if if I do an autumn trek in a forest, so
uh-huh,
that gives me so much meaning as to how nature also let goes of things with the hope that there's going to be rebirth.
uh-huh.
And when I travel in spring, I can see that rebirth or hope is a creative, conscious process. It's a creative process, and as a human, it's a conscious process. So to live a life of positivity requires a conscious effort.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's how I write, and that's how I try to heal
I'm hoping
myself.
to read your writing.
I will share them. I
Yes,
will, inshallah.
and I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
put your links and all. Maybe you don't have it now, but hopefully in few months when we'll interview you again, maybe your book will come out or something. Then we will be we will be
So,
reading that. Thank you for watching part one with Samira Mumtaz. This is Light Up with Shwa. It's a weekly podcast on conscious living and parenting. I hope you have already subscribed and shared this episode, and if any other episode, and please stay tuned for part two with her as well.